let me take,
Oh, as a closed
So
session.
March 23rd, I think, was the schedule.
that's the original date, and we pull it in, is that okay?
Yeah, go push it
Right,
up a
March,
week.
Right?
Let me double check.
Oh, Scott's looking at his calendar.
March,
Push,
Okay.
the second meeting,
Yeah.
so that'd be the fourth Monday, oh, March 27th.
Oh, March 27th. And so it would be March 20th.
okay.
Late. He's
Right.
in front of St. John's.
Right.
Here. His plane landed
That's fine.
a little bit late.
He told us he might be late.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. So it would be like 1 week after another, 13th and 20th,
13th and 20th.
if that works for you guys. Jim, talking about March. And, yeah, we've got 3 trustees absent on the 27th, so looking to push it up a week to the 20th. And that would,
No spring break, so.
Festive 15.
No young children.
And that she.
okay, good.
Yes,
Okay, good.
finally figured it out. The 20th would
I
be,
mean, she
would
hiked
work.
the Grand Canyon.
Okay, good.
Hey,
So let's,
She did call it
let's
the rim
just
to
move
rim.
that up. And
So start once and
it's
walk
good
down
with
and up
these
the other
guys?
side.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Say they walk the other
What
way.
about you, Mike? Is that
She's asking me like,
No, those
do you
are on
want to do this?
Tuesdays.
You want to?
I'm good.
Like,
I'm getting in the book right now.
no, it's one of her pal.
okay.
Perfect.
Works. Yeah, no. She's,
Did she do it in the summer?
no, she did it. No, it's happening still.
Oh, really?
They had rain,
I
like,
rarely go
the
downtown.
guy said, down here at the bottom of the canyon.
What happened? You're here.
So
Well, I
be in the river.
Oh, okay.
Be went outside, like your car shrink now and go that way. You were going to
stalled.
I will say with.
So I'll just announce that too, oh, sorry. I'll just announce that too tonight.
Crane.
No, not much. I mean,
They do that too. There are
can
a
say
lot of people that don't know what they're doing that decide to spend.
Okay, so February would be the
They don't
13th
even
and
go
the
that
13th
far.
and the
There's like
27th,
constantly these,
and then
Yeah,
I don't know where
okay.
they are on the trail. They're like, do you have salty snacks? Do you have enough water? If not, turn around now. Like, don't go further.
Yeah, we
Like,
don't want to save you.
So we're saying change the March
very serious
27th,
there, with
change
good
that
reason.
to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
20th.
You
Yes.
don't run into it enough.
So Elaine will
also,
send something
unlike
out
hiking up a
too.
mountain, you
Yeah.
go down first, then you have to go up.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Exactly.
Oh,
Flew in, I guess. He said it's going to be a couple minutes late, but he's literally by St. John's.
oh, great. Good. Thank you. Hey, wow.
It's even faster than he said.
Under the wire.
Get the police.
Escort.
Yeah, police escorted to
Is it bad if I show up late last night? That's what you said.
Oh, I was using my phone to late. I don't know, I met the last time. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah. No worries. Well, you made it.
I did.
Yeah.
I landed less than an hour ago.
Wow. You okay? You want to catch your breath?
I'm good.
All right. Are we good, Dan? Okay, great. Good evening. Welcome to this January 9th meeting of the Western Springs Village Board of Trustees. To honor our nation's heroes and especially to honor the men and women in uniform who serve and protect our community, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk Timmick, please call the roll.
Yes, President Carroll. Trustee Chen.
Here.
Trustee Fink.
Here.
Trustee John.
Here.
Trustee Lewis.
Here.
Trustee Rudolph.
Here.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Having read the agenda, does any trustee have an addition or deletion to tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to citizen comments. This is the portion of the meeting where we open it up to the public to address the board. Is there anyone here this evening who would like to speak to the board? Hearing none, we'll close the citizens' comments and move on to consideration of agenda items during the workshop portion of our meeting. First up is the report from the Chair of the Properties and Recreation Committee, Trustee Chen. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam President. Very briefly, there is an item listed, the right-of-way sale discussion, 52nd Street right-of-way within the 5200 block of Grand Avenue, Jim Coniff and Ray Swappa. The Properties and Recreation Committee did have a meeting and both petitioners attended. The Properties and Recreation Committee did not put forth a recommendation. I am going to pass it over to Matt Super to discuss more of this item.
Thank you.
Thank you. So in the packet this evening is a memo that outlines the right-of-way sale proposals that the village has before it. Staff and the committee has been working on these items for the better part of this past fall. The petition from Mr. Swappa came in initially around end of August, early September, wishing to purchase 12 feet. He purchased previously 33 feet of the right-of-way back in approximately 2003. After that petition came in, the village sent out as part of its right-of-way sale policy the notice to the neighbor to the south, Mr. Coniff. Mr. Coniff came back and requested and put in a petition to purchase 27 feet. The total available right-of-way that's still available is 27 feet total. Mr. Coniff purchased approximately 12 feet back in 2007. The two petitions that are in play at this point then would conflict with each other as there's overlap. So we've been trying to work with both petitioners this past fall. The most recent committee met back in December to look at some various options. As is outlined in the memo then this evening, after speaking with both parties, both wanted to continue the petitions as they have forward with the 12 feet and then the 27 feet. As a result, the committee itself, when it discussed this back in December, did not come out with a specific recommendation for either option. So with that, we are bringing it forth to the board to discuss what options are available to work through and come to an agreement on what right-of-way sale configuration would be most ideal. Ultimately, staff is really wants to advocate that the entire remaining 27 feet is sold as a result of either of these sales. Ideally, we want to get these off the books, and then would also help with configurations related to sidewalk installation and some other scenarios in this process.
I also want to mention that we had a comment made by one of the petitioners that came by email and that you have on the dais in front of you. And the other petitioner is here in the audience tonight.
Thank you. So, Mr. Swappa, good evening. You would like to purchase 12 feet of this right-of-way?
That's correct.
Leaving the 15 feet unpurchased then?
No, I was hoping, leaving the 15 feet for Jim and not put in the, I didn't want to try and buy off 27 feet. I talked to Jim and he wanted some distance, so all we need is 12 for the builder to build.
Okay.
And that's why we went with 12.
And there,
We ultimately would like 4, but we met with Jim beforehand. We thought 12 is what could catch us to where we could build a big.
John Griffin, I'm a builder in town. I've been in front of you before for another right-of-way purchase. We ultimately would like the whole thing ourselves, but when we met with Jim, it obviously was clear that he wanted some distance. So to be honest, 12 is not enough. 17 would be probably the minimum we'd really want as to build and my customers would want. But we tried to be reasonable and say we'd go put in for 12. It had been out there for many, many years, not been used. I knew the rules of the right-of-way, and I just felt by going with 12, it'd be fair to every party, and that's why we went 12. But we would buy 27, we would buy 17. But we were trying to be respectful of Jim to the south.
I see. Thank you. And then, does Mr. Coniff have?
To the south.
I see. Thank you. And then, does Mr. Coniff have some improvements on the right-of-way already?
Yeah, so there is I'm not sure if the aerial made it in the packet, but there is some approximately 15 to 20 arborvitae / evergreen trees that Mr. Coniff installed on village right-of-way at some point in the past. During our committee meetings, he did indicate that those were installed as part of stormwater or flooding issues he experienced on the back of his property. To our knowledge, there was no permits or any sort of permission or communications related to those installations. So he's been made aware that those were not installed properly as part of our permitting or right-of-way protocol. I met with Mr. Coniff, I think right before the Christmas holiday, and the current arborvitae are installed right about 24 to 27 feet north of where his existing property line is. So it would be about 3 feet off of where Mr. Swapa's existing property line is. So my last conversation with Mr. Coniff, he was really looking for that 24 to 27 feet because he didn't want to lose those trees. They weren't installed as part of any permitting process or anything else.
I see. So if the 12 feet was sold to Mr. Swapa, that would be within, the arborvitae would be within the 12 feet.
That's correct. Those would be encompassed in that. We did talk at the committee level too. Mr. Coniff raised concerns about stormwater or flooding issues on the rear side of his property. We did indicate to him at the time that the right-of-way sale process itself would not really address or consider those, but as part of the plan review process, when a new home comes in, those stormwater issues are reviewed by the engineering team as well as other departments, and any of those stormwater issues, at least on the property that's being developed, would be tried to address them.
Okay. And is there a shared driveway on this property, or is it Mr. Coniff's driveway? Where would that fall?
There's presently not a shared driveway. Probably was way back in the past, but Mr. Coniff's home was rebuilt at some point, I'm assuming back closer to that 2007 period when he completed his sale. Right now, the only driveway that's remaining in the right-of-way portion is Mr. Swapa's.
Okay. Thank you. Any comments from the committee at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky situation. We were unable to come together on a recommendation. Yeah, it's just a tricky situation. Al, I don't know if you want to say anything.
Yeah, no, I'm certainly not a good arbiter of like what is fair and what's not. It's just someone, because they put their first bid in, do they get precedent? So the other part that Mr. Coniff talked about is the village had this idea of first refusal, and then since that time, the village changed its policy, and he just didn't know about it, so he thought he's gonna have dibs on it, no matter what.
But it wasn't owned by him, correct?
Right.
But I don't know if that's true. That he may have had that understanding that there was a right of first refusal, but I don't know if that was ever official.
It seems like it'd be more of like the right to know and be part of the process is what I would. Yep. Go.
Yeah.
My only comment on all this is that.
You need to
Use the
use the
microphone.
microphone. I'm sorry. That's so the people at home can hear you.
Yeah, my only comment about all this is I live in Western Spring.
Is a green light on? There you go.
Any comment? Yes, I'm a builder in Western Springs, but I'm also a resident. There was no attempt to purchase this property before I put it in. He'd take it, if we hadn't put in a deal, we would not be sitting here making the village 150, 200,000, whatever the number is.
Right.
This was put forward, we went in, made an offer, we followed the rules, it's the policy that's outlined by our internal attorney. That's the rule, it's been out there a long time. We met with him beforehand to see if we could come to an agreement. And it didn't work out, and we put in a deal, per the policy, and I can tell you, well, I can't tell you, but there was no attempt made over a 15-year period to purchase this. Why should Ray suffer? Because Ray's going to get a better price for his property if it's a bigger property than if he didn't. Why should Ray suffer? Because we put in a deal and it wasn't, that we followed the policy. And it was 15 years someone had a right to purchase and it wasn't purchased.
Right.
I just don't think that's fair, personally.
Can I ask you a
Thank you.
question?
Yeah.
So are you 5104? Is that correct?
5140.
Sorry, 50. My dyslexia.
The only other comment that if the village is supposed to perhaps do what's in the best interest of the village. You know, either party will provide, you know, enough, either party would end up buying it all if the other doesn't want the remaining portion. And then secondly, you know, I'm sure you're aware, but, you know, if Jim were to buy 27 feet, your tax base stays the same, okay? If I buy 12, you know, you know, I'm an accountant too, so I did a few computations. You know, the village, you know, 10, 12,000 a year will accrete to the village taxing jurisdictions, the 4 taxing jurisdictions that relate to Western Springs. You know, and that's an annuity for life. So,
Right.
you know, that may go into consideration. I don't know as far as what the board
Thank you,
does.
Mr. Swap.
Thank you.
Duly noted. Any comments from trustees?
I guess I think inherently 50-50 is fair. They each end up purchasing 33 feet each. No,
It's
16 and a half. 16, right.
It's 27 right now.
But owning.
Oh, I
No.
see.
At the end of the day, they'll each have 33
Well, we
feet.
proposed that. That was something that we floated, but I think that was turned down.
But
That would
whether
be
it was
what?
accepted or not, I guess I think that's.
But I guess
not
I would
another-
ignore the past, right? The past
Right.
is the past, and that decision was made independent of this, right? Because he bought it previously, and he, you know, I think all we have to focus on now is this 33 feet. And we want to get rid of it.
27.
27
Sorry.
feet.
7 feet large.
Sorry. I keep on reading here, I keep meaning 33 feet, so my bad.
About the 6 feet of the 33.
I got it.
His house is there.
God, he bought 6 of the 33. Got it. Okay, now it makes a little more sense.
So they would
Okay.
end up one way.
Okay.
Right.
So Mr. Swappa would buy 12 and possibly 13 and a half, but Mr. Coniff wants the full amount because he's worried about his trees. Is that it?
Well, I think he doesn't want a large house next to him.
Oh, I mean, that's.
He has a large
I
house.
still don't see, other than the arborvitae trees, I still don't see why 13 and a half and 13 and a half. And equitable fairness isn't the way to go on.
Well, you know, it also moves to where the sidewalk's gonna end up. It'll be close off.
Mr. Carroll, there's also, just as a note, there's kind of 2 groupings of trees. There's the arborvitae, which is near that 24-foot mark. There's also some larger mature trees, which are currently village-owned trees that are very close to Mr. Coniff's existing property line, just a few feet in. Some of our conversations with him, he did have some concerns about those. If we ended up with a 12-foot sale by Swappa and then balance 15 feet to Coniff, the larger trees would be encompassed in that 15 feet.
Oh.
Those are fairly nice mature trees. Those are deciduous trees, so those would be inside that 15-foot purchase area. The arborvitae along the back edge of the property.
Yeah, the mature trees would not be impacted, you know, either way. The trees we're talking about are just evergreen bushes. They're not really trees. I mean, they're small. They could be easy, small root systems. They could be removed and
Oh,
replanted.
I see.
Reality is they're planted where they shouldn't be planted. So.
Yeah. And those are along the back lot line, right?
No, there's nothing along the back. It's like Matt had said earlier. They're kind of on the 24-foot, you know, where they're long. There's like maybe 10 evergreen bushes, you know, small trees.
I'm looking at the.
Yeah, the big
Google
mature,
Maps.
the big mature trees that are owned by the village would not be impacted either way. We would, even if we were to purchase the whole thing, they would not be impacted either way. Just because of
Well-
setback restrictions, et cetera, they would not go.
Why is Mr. Coniff adverse to taking half of this? He was at your committee.
He wants it all.
Well, he
And
wants it
he'll take
all
it all.
now. I mean, he had the opportunity to purchase it, so that's the other factor. But now that this action has happened, our feeling was this was a response to this action, whereas he had the opportunity. And he planted his trees already on Village and maybe was utilizing it like it was, you know what I'm saying?
So I
Yeah.
would think,
Yeah.
Mr. Swappa, I mean, because he took the first action, right, of you know, moving forward with this 12 feet or, it kind of, I mean, if I'm the first in line for something, right, I should get the first, I mean, I don't see why Mr. Conniff
Kind of.
can really say no to Mr. Swappa for,
Well, it's not really in conflict, but our policy is to, if we can, to sell the whole right-of-way. And
Agreed.
so this proposal does not.
Like I said,
Right.
yeah, that's not
That-
true. We
Okay.
will purchase it all. We were trying to give
Okay.
Jim the option to actually, where we were, like I said,
Understood.
12 feet is not the right answer for us. It's a bigger number.
Right,
We were trying to
we
be fair. He did ask what would the minimum. We said 12 would be the very, very minimum. But reality is 100 is the preferred, and bigger is better.
I agree
Sort
with
of
that.
New information to us. That was not something that was.
Well, I
spoken
do
to.
think
Yeah.
you're correct that, Mr. Conniff had the opportunity to purchase this for quite a while. And he only wanted it when Mr. Swappa came forward with the 12-foot ask. I think, to me, the equitable thing would be to give Mr. Swappa the 12 feet and allow Mr. Conniff to purchase the 15 feet, should he desire. If he doesn't, then we have assurances from Mr. Swappa that he will purchase the entire amount.
And again, Mr. Conniff's objection to that is just the arborvitae trees? That was it?
It's in the memo here. He was under the impression that he would have the right to first refusal. But that is not our policy. Was that ever our policy?
There was a right of first refusal, so to speak, many, many years ago. Mr. Conniff bought like 3 or 4 iterations ago under the policy. It has changed since then. He did buy 6 feet and chose not to buy the balance of the half that was available to him at the time. There is no right of first refusal right now. You know, there is an opportunity if somebody comes in and puts in a petition to buy any portion of the right-of-way, that the adjacent neighbor gets an opportunity to put in a counter alternate proposal. But ultimately, it's the village board, and actually, it's 5 of 6 trustees. That's the vote. It's a very particular vote. The mayor doesn't have a tiebreaker in this case. 5 out of 6 trustees have to vote in favor to vacate right-of-way after a public hearing. So when you do get to a consensus on this, it has to be with at least 5 of you going in the one direction. But yeah, no right of first refusal. You're able to decide what's in the best interest for the village.
Okay. So historically, Mr. Conniff has purchased 6 feet of right-of-way already. Has Mr. Swappa purchased any right-of-way?
33 feet.
33 feet, okay.
Ray bought, Mr. Swappa bought back in '06 or '03 originally. Mr. Conniff bought
2007, I believe.
7, about 4, maybe 3, 4 years later, in a separate transaction.
I see.
You say 12 and 15, 13 and a half, 13 and a half. Would that verse to you?
The sidewalk.
the sidewalk.
Yeah, that would shift the sidewalk.
Okay.
But either way, the sidewalk's getting moved, because currently the sidewalk is right outside Ray's front door.
right?
So either way, the sidewalk's getting repositioned over. The sidewalk goes on 50% of the property line, so 3 feet each owners have. So you give up 3 feet of your right-of-way, each person, for sidewalks.
Jim, in this instance, I think the 12-15 is more equitable, since Mr. Swappa's only asking for 12. And Mr. Conniff appears to be interested in the remainder. That
You're all right with 12?
Yeah, like I said, we'd prefer more, but
Right.
we would settle for 12.
But would,
Mr. Griffin, did you mention that you would pay for the relocation of the arborvitae?
You know, I did at one stage when I met with Jim before. So when I met with Jim before I put in my offer, I met with Jim trying to be as best possible. I said I would pay for the sidewalk, I would pay for the trees. That was an offer I made that was not accepted, and he went in and proposed for all 27. I don't feel now that we have gone beyond the point where we had an agreement that I should actually have to pay for removal of something. Had he not gone, and tried to go beyond me, I would definitely have done that. But I just don't think I should then now be required to do something for an offer I made that was refused and not accepted to do it. I don't think it's a large amount of money to remove it, but in principle, I just don't think it's the right thing for me to have to do. I did make that offer 100%, But then Jim went and presented a 27 feet purchase, so therefore my offer was not accepted. And then, I just don't think should be required. I would absolutely have done it, there's no doubt in my mind.
What are we talking about as far as how much?
I have no idea, I mean, it's not, it wouldn't be that, I mean,
They're not big trees,
they're like I said, they're
evergreens.
10-foot evergreens if even, yeah.
I mean, could we make a proposal here is, this is just me talking here. the
Okay.
Proposal, so 12 feet for Mr. Swappa. And Mr. Coniff has the opportunity to buy the remaining 15 feet. If he does not buy that, then as part of this decision, Mr. Swappa agrees to buy the full 27 feet. Because
Right.
that gets it for what Trustee Chen was saying is, our goal is to get rid of the whole thing, right?
Exactly my point. I mean, the goal is to get rid of this land, right? So me as a homeowner and taxpayer in this community benefits from it. If this offer was not presented, there would be no money coming in. That's a fact. There was 15 years where it didn't come in. There was 15 minutes where it did come in after I put my offer in.
But as part, if we made that if we made the removal or the relocation of the arborvitae part of the sale agreement, just to be a good neighbor, would you be amenable to that?
He wants them, assuming you were talking about replanting them, correct? I would,
Would you pay for them?
I would prefer not to, but I would.
You would.
But I
Is that to move or to buy new ones? I just want to make sure that we're
Move to relocate,
relocate.
yeah. Or, I mean,
There-
whatever.
Yeah, there's a service to do that, yeah. I mean, I could do that.
Thank you.
But
Appreciate
then,
that.
the sidewalk is per the agreement that Jim would have, it's per, the agreement on the right-of-way then is that 50% of the sidewalk and all the markings, because I did that I'm doing that I just was here a couple months ago for 5140 Central, and there's a sidewalk that's go in, there's markings for special needs people, there's, et cetera. That's a large cost, so that would have to be split as per the normal agreement, but I will move the trees because I did say that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And just so I'm clear, if we talk about the 12 feet tonight, authorizing that to you, if Mr. Coniff does not buy the 15 feet, you would buy the remaining?
Yes.
Or some portion that he does not want. So maybe he wants 10, right? So I'm just saying there may be
The remainder,
the
whatever the
remainder.
remainder
Well,
is.
I mean,
Well, I know.
we've
but
been
just-
through a lot of
Scenarios.
iterations here,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, it
but
feels like
whatever,
we should
it is what it
limit
is.
the number of
Yeah.
further permutations. It feels like this should be 12 and 17, and if not 12 and 17, then
15.
27.
12, 15.
12, 15, oh my gosh, now I'm 12 and 15.
Right.
15 is not accepted, then the offer reverts to 27. Done. This is taken, I mean, I'm sorry for everybody, and I'm sorry this has come to sort of this much disagreement. I'm sorry Mr. Coniff's not here too, because I mean, I feel badly for him based on his prior understanding of the right of first refusal. It sounds like that has caused him a lot of angst through this process too, but I think these are fair proposals.
Mm-hmm.
The 12, 15. 27.
Everybody.
And the trees?
And the,
And the trees?
Like I said, I will, yes, in the agreement, we can have it where I will remove the trees, the evergreen trees that are there.
relocate.
We will relocate the evergreen
Yes.
trees.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well,
Does that make, Attorney Drusik, does that make sense?
Those are all legitimate conditions. You have the authority to do that. If that's the direction, staff can communicate that to Mr. Coniff, and we will get a yes or a no answer. And depending on the answer, we'll prepare the paperwork to follow whatever track is agreed to.
The yes or the no answer is coming from the board?
Mr. Coniff, regarding the 15 feet.
Yeah, so we won't come back to the board. If Mr. Coniff agrees to the deal of the 12-15 split with the arborvitae being, relocated at swap out Griffin's cost and 50/50 share. We'll go forward with a public hearing next month and do the proper ordinances to prepare the deal. If Coniff says no, then we'll reach out to you, and it will be a 27, foot transaction. And again, we'll do public hearing in February, and the transaction will move forward on that track.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for attending tonight. Any other comments before? No? All right. Thank you very much.
Do we just have to, 5 out of 6?
No,
Let's just confirm that there's 5 out of 6 in favor of that, and a general, just a consensus, because we do need, that's a supermajority vote that's unique to this type of transaction. And we can't change it because it's part of municipal code, state law.
so just a consensus here. We can, yes, yes. Scott?
What? No. I struggling with, I don't think Mr. Coniff should be at a disadvantage because he hadn't acted previously when there wasn't a reason to. As soon as the issue came up this time around, he was engaged. And I think, again, the 33-33 is inherently, ends up 50-50, which is always considered fair. But having said all that, I'm in with the agreement.
All right, thank you.
I agree.
Okay,
I'm a yes.
yeah,
I mean, yes.
thank you. All right, thank you. We'll adhere to the schedule that Attorney Jerusik outlined, so I'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Well, that concludes my report from the Properties and Recreation.
That was quite a report.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Very good.
Engaged.
Yes.
Deliberative. Deliberative.
Okay, moving on to the report from the Public Works and Water Committee. Trustee Fink.
All right. I
Thank
thought I
you.
was going to have the most to say. All right, so the first item is the lead service line inventory replacement milestones. So starting in January, the state law changed that prohibited replacement of lead service lines. So there's 3 big tasks in the next couple of years. The first deadline is April 15th, not until 2024, and that's doing the service line inventory. So that's just seeing how many lead service lines we still have in the village. 75% of that is complete, and when the water meters get replaced, we'll have the 100% completed. So we'll be ahead of the task for that. The next item would be the lead service line replacement project plan. So this must be submitted April of 2024, in theory, when everyone has their inventory done. And HR Green has submitted an application for funding through that state revolving fund that they created just for this process.
Excellent.
That was submitted October of 2022. And then in this next month, there should be a professional agreement that will be brought to the board with HR Green as far as how this is going to happen. And the third part is the lead service line replacement, the kind of the meat of the project. And since they've already estimated we're going to have less than 1,200 service lines to replace, that puts us at the point that we'll have to replace 7% per year over the course of 15 years.
Seems manageable.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. And hopefully the state funds a big
Right.
chunk of this. The next item is the Robinson Engineering proposal for televising training. So Public Works is recommending approving the proposal for Robinson Engineering for CCTV review and training not to exceed $20,450. So this is a budget item. We have $25,000 budgeted. And what this is going to allow us to do is train 2 of Public Works staff to take the information from all the televising of the sewers, and then you're going to put like a number grade on each sewer line, and then kind of upload this to the GIS inventory. So it'll help with a long-term plan of how these sewer lines are looking.
Seems like excellent planning.
And so before we'd have to kind of firm this out, and by having people trained internally, it'll in the long term save money.
Yes.
The next item is the Springdale televising, actually like Springdale and Ridgewood. So in this past fall, over 30,000 linear feet of pipe were televised in Ridgewood and Springdale. And so these were areas that were pinpointed just because of all the flooding problems in the past. And then with this, in your packet, there's all kinds of, even I could look at the photos and say, there's something wrong with that pipe.
They were fascinating
Yes.
photos.
So
Yeah.
in this next month, they're going to come up with a plan and proposals and prices to how we can fix some of this stuff. And in that, it is, they did the best job they could. So even though some of the pictures look terrible, there is still water flowing through there, but it's one of those things that needs to be addressed as quickly as possible. The next item is the LPA Amendment Number 1 agreement with the West Underpass. So we are recommending to approve the LPA Amendment Number 1. So with this, there is $900,000 in grant funding for the West Underpass from the Illinois Commerce Committee. So the money is there, but IDOT is supposed to disperse the money, and somehow the IDOT didn't have the paperwork for the funding. So this amendment is kind of from IDOT that they're sending to us if we will approve it, basically to get our $900,000 back.
Okay, so that 900,000 was granted to us now 2-3 years ago, right?
2 years,
It's still, we know that it's still available and, okay.
We've had conversations with representatives from the ICC. We've been actually trying to submit for reimbursements to these since October of 2020. It's taken us this long to coordinate between the two state agencies to get the right people, to get them talking to each other, to say, what's missing, what do you see the two agencies need to get this moving along?
Okay.
Both Director Super and Director Mastandona have been in very constant communication with these agencies to try to expedite this money and some other additional reimbursements that we are waiting for. So we're having frequent conversations.
It's been a very long process.
Yes.
So does this now seem like we're at the end? Is that what this seems like?
I hope so. Every time we submit something to IDOT, part of the issue is it takes them 2 to 3 months to send a reply, and then they always say, hey, you forgot to cross this T, dot this I, do this, please resubmit, and then it's another 2 to 3 month turnaround every time. So that's in part why it's taken so long to get this all figured out. But I'm hoping that once this amendment is approved, all the paperwork they need to recognize the authorization for the disbursements is done.
All right, thank you, and thanks for your diligence on this. It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
Yeah.
The next item is the 2022 Flag Creek Outfall Project. So in Ridgewood, they've been completing this outfalls that go into Flag Creek, and there's pictures in your packet of, they look much better.
Much better.
And so all this is necessary for our sewer system to kind of like flow into, or I'm not saying a sanitary sewer, Matt, am I saying it correctly? Not the sewer line. Storm sewer, yes. So Ridgewood is now complete, and now they're going to be moving further north to Forest Hills and Commonwealth this next year.
So Ridgewood is complete. It looked on the map like there were 2 outfalls south of where the work took place.
We completed those last year.
Okay, so they were red, so that made me think they were still.
No, yes, that screenshot was from the initial report we did about
Okay.
3 years ago that identified the initial condition ratings.
Okay, great. So Ridgewood is complete, and we're moving north.
We do have a nice update on this project and the one prior on the website. Matt has spent some time really getting a lot of the pictures up there. So if you want to see more about the entire project, definitely visit the website.
Wonderful. Thank you.
It's also worth just noting, these projects have not upsized any sewers. Director Coase was working on some similar projects related to these different areas for upsizing long-term. These were reestablishing all the outfalls and the erosion issues, and you can see from some of the before issues, some of them, the pipe was not positioned correctly near the outfall, so that's what these projects were really focused on.
Aren't there issues with upsizing and the flow of the water into Flag Creek increasing then? Is there, like with MWRD, is there any kind of permitting we would need to do if we upsized them?
You want to jump on that one?
Yeah, I can take that one. So we actually are wrapping up a study on Flag Creek, a very brief study, but it was meant to assess that particular concern. And although I don't have a final report yet, the preliminary report was that the project to improve the ability of Ridgewood Drive to drain would not be any issues with any permitting agencies or any concerns about the water more quickly moving to the creek.
Oh, great.
We've looked at that and we feel like we're in a good spot with it.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks, Hal.
The next item is the sidewalk shaving contract renewal. So Public Works is recommending renewing the contract with Murphy Construction for sidewalk cutting not to exceed $20,000. So this is the same price as the 21 contract that was competitively bid at $19.95 per inch foot. And then there is the West Underpass Cook County grant extension. So we're recommending approving the West Underpass extension from December 31st, 2022 to December 31st, 2023.
Makes sense.
And the last item is the Spring Rock Park water main. Matt, can I throw this over to you?
Yes, absolutely. So in front of everyone this evening, there is a memo that just briefly outlines the Spring Rock Park water main project. Over the holiday, so let me back up. This project actually began about 2 weeks ago. We've broken ground. If anybody's had a chance to drive out near Spring Rock Park, you'll see the construction moving along, for the most part, rather smoothly. We did experience, unsurprisingly, I guess, a water main break near the water tower over the holiday period. Public Works crew responded to it rather quickly. We didn't have any major flooding issues, and there were no major loss of operations. The portion, though, that the break occurred on is actually right near the base of the tower itself. It was actually not in the original scope of the water main replacement that we intended to do. Because it's near the foundation and tower, we weren't quite sure, unless we excavated the whole area, what that water main looked like, how it would tie into the tower. As a result, though, we had a water main break. Public Works did excavate that area, and you can see from the photo, the break was right near the foundation of the tower. They were able to get a sleeve on that portion, and it's back in temporary operation, but we wanted to reach out with King County Excavating, who's doing the work out there, to get some quotes to replace that remaining 45 feet of main that stems off the tower. They gave us 2 rough quotes. We're working on hopefully getting a full change order here in for the next board meeting, but we wanted to get some concurrence on moving forward with the board. To complete the remaining 45 feet of water main replacement, it would be about $17,000. The other quote that they gave us was to line the main. That was significantly more, about $45,000, and that was largely due to you'd have to have a separate contractor come out to mobilize, and it's a relatively small section of pipe for lining, so a lot of that cost didn't come out to be cost competitive in that particular case. So they are, this is a little bit time sensitive in the sense that they are out in this area working on the project right near the tower right now. So we are looking to proceed forward with this and bring a final change order to the board at the second meeting this month.
Yeah, I was leaning anyway towards replacement, but I thought lining would be a lot less costly than replacement, and the fact that it's not, it seems like as long as we're replacing that stretch, why not continue on? And Matt says that once this is replaced, that entire water main now would be replaced and brand new, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that water main is how old?
It's probably, well, it's probably from the 60s when the tower was built, is my understanding. So it's probably original when the tower was constructed.
Okay. And the valves, all those valves will be replaced too, so we pretty much have a brand new...
You can't quite see, but all the little arrows that are on the photos here, those are actually all indicating the valves that are going to be replaced. Just for the screenshot, I didn't include all that ancillary information, but all of those arrows indicate valves that are already planning to be replaced as part of the project, as well as numerous other ones on the southern leg of the project as well.
What do we lose by not doing a water main, the lining?
By not doing the lining?
Yeah, I mean, what are we giving up by not just
Nothing,
doing
really.
it?
I mean, putting the new main in, whether you do a lining project or a new main installation, generally the lining could be more cost competitive when excavating costs a lot of money. If you have a lot of cross utilities or there's a lot of impact on a road or something like that. In this particular case, it's basically a green space inside the fenced area that the village owns. So there's not really an impact. That's probably more likely than anything why the cost came in as competitive as it did. And we're using the contract prices for the water main, which we had as part of the contract.
And it's already partially excavated, because Public Works did it when they
Exactly.
fixed.
To me, it makes sense to do it. So where's the $17,000 coming from? Is there a special...
This would ultimately have to be a change order for the project.
Everybody in agreement?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. So you have your,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
All right, and that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Al. Moving on to Planning and Zoning Committee, Trustee Jen?
Nothing for me tonight.
All right. Public Health and Safety Committee is the report, Trustee Lewis?
Thank you. The Public Health and Safety Committee met last week to discuss proposed traffic control improvements for the intersection of Prospect and Hillgrove Avenues near the new West Underpass. As you recall, soon after the underpass was open to pedestrians, some of our fellow residents petitioned the village to install 2 additional stop signs at the intersection to make it a 3-way stop. Currently, there's only a stop sign on Prospect Avenue. Although the underpass is open, work there is unfinished. The original plan was to install push-button activated flashing rapid beacons to help pedestrians safely cross Hillgrove. That work is scheduled to be completed in the first quarter of this year. In response to the residents' petition, the village hired an engineering consultant to analyze the situation. The consultant's report indicated it would be reasonable for the village to make the intersection a 3-way stop now, or it would also be reasonable to await the installation of the flashing beacons and then monitor their performance. Our Transportation and Safety Commission met in December to discuss the petitions and the stop signs request. The commission's final recommendation was to allow the underpass project to be completed, including the installation of the push-button flashing beacons. The village could assess later this summer, when the pool is open and the parks are busier, if the flashing beacons are effective. While our Public Health and Safety Committee appreciated the Transportation and Safety Commission's work on the issue, we voted to go a different direction. We're recommending that the village not install the flashing beacons and instead install stop signs on Hillgrove to make the intersection an all-way stop. Our main concern is that underpass users on bicycles have been seen exiting the tunnel and crossing Hillgrove without first checking for traffic. We also had concerns that many users would not stop to activate the flashing beacons even after they are installed. So that's our recommendation, is we make it a 3-way stop there and have that considered at our next meeting.
Will that save some money from a electrical perspective and beacons and everything like that? Stop signs seem to be probably pretty inexpensive.
They're less expensive, but I think we have the funding for the beacons
Already?
as a part of
Yeah.
the project.
That's right.
We may be able to use it elsewhere,
Okay.
Right.
but there is less work involved as far as getting it installed.
And that's our intention, is if it is a 3-way stop there, that the rapid flashing beacons could potentially be reused on the opposite side, on the Burlington side, as we are beginning the planning stages for some additional crossing improvements on that side. I don't know, Director Koza, if you want to add to that.
Thank you, Manager Bear. No, I think you summarized it appropriately. We're going to look into the ability of repurposing those if we go with the stop sign option. We actually just got preliminary plans from our consultant on the crossing, so we're reviewing that internally.
And on a related matter, the stop sign petitioners also asked us to install an American with Disabilities Act compliant ramp near the underpass on Burlington, on the Burlington Avenue side of the tracks, and village staff is continuing work on that request.
Okay.
To clarify, the Burlington side does have an ADA accessible crossing, but it is at Central, which would require someone coming through there to head to the east and cross at the corner.
I see.
So the flashing beacons, that's what's on the east underpass currently?
Yes.
You push button.
Mhm.
But in terms of just traffic and kids and things, we certainly anticipate the west underpass ends up with a lot more overall pedestrian or bicycle traffic because it's connecting from the pool to the park. And so it's kind of a different use case than the east.
And the east is also a little bit different construction.
Yeah.
Where you have to go
Little
up
grade.
and
Downstairs.
around.
Okay.
Up and around.
Rather
Yeah.
than being able to.
Straight through.
Right.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
The
if you
absence
ride
of
the bike, you'll
stairs.
You'll go.
Right.
It makes a big difference. So
Oh,
the west, you
gotcha.
can just come straight through. On the east, you have to turn and go up some stairs to come through that way.
Okay.
Or a ramp.
Or a ramp. And the
Okay.
ramp has a switchback, which slows you down.
I
Right.
see. I live by the west one. I'm less familiar with it. Okay,
Yeah.
so they're really different then, again,
Yeah.
in terms of how they're used. I was surprised by, and I really appreciate the traffic study, I was surprised by the number of cars that are there at that particular hour in the morning and at night, and that's in November.
Yeah.
You do have the early childhood programs at the rec
Okay.
center that increases traffic, as well as the theater and the public works facility and the recreation building in general.
Okay.
So there is a bit of traffic that moves that direction down Hillgrove, more than you'd probably think.
Okay.
And in the summer, we'll have the pool as
Yeah.
well, so, yeah, it's,
I think this stop sign is a really good idea. It just feels like this is only going to become more acute.
You don't want to make this decision at
Later.
Yes.
right. I mean, it seems like the safest option available, and so why would we not take that? Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I appreciate the petitioner and the assistance and information that you provided.
Note that motorists generally are supposed to yield to pedestrians, but they generally don't, even at stop signs at other parts of Western Springs. So just a reminder that what the rules of the road are for pedestrians. And I use the East Underpass
point.
quite a bit. And it's just not the same, but once the beacons are up and there's that placard right in the middle of the street, if there's any pedestrian close, people generally will slow down. You know, I know this is a different, but because that's right by a school, so there are kids that are using it. It's right by your house, Alice. I'm
Right.
sure you use it a lot. But every time I'm there, people generally, not everybody, but people are speeding down. Is it on the south side? Is that Hillgrove?
Hillgrove's
Yeah,
in
there's
the-
no stop signs on the Hillgrove side, and people are speeding down that street, but they will generally start to slow down around where they see the pedestrian crossing. But that's not true of every pedestrian crossing in Western Springs.
But this on the west, we run the issue too, then that means that every pedestrian would have to activate the flashing beacons
Right.
too, right?
Yeah.
Because I agree with you, I think too,
Yeah.
psychologically, you do kind of notice the flashing.
Well, I never activate the ones at the east. People
Oh.
generally just stop.
Bring a 10-year-old on a bike that's in a
Right,
hurry to
right.
get to the pool.
Exactly.
They're not going to stop to press a
Exactly.
button.
Right,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a reminder that you should watch for pedestrians.
Yes. Good point. Thank you, Trustee Chen.
Yes.
Any other comments? Oh, sorry, Scott.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to the Finance Committee report, Trustee Rudolph.
Thank you, President Gallagher. Just a couple of items. First, in your packet, we provided a list of, there were 17 vendors whose annual charges may exceed $25,000. Vendors, consultants, and others who go through like an RFP or a bid process or that we have contracts with, they're not part of this list. This is why it's a pretty small list with 17. But we want the whole board to be aware of this list. All of the anticipated costs for those vendors are, have been reviewed by the relevant departments and committees and are all approved within the 2023 budget. And any increases to any of those would also come before the board for consideration. This is really, it's about transparency. It's about making sure just everyone is aware of these vendors. And the finance committee, we recommend that this vendor list be approved. And I think we would put that on the omnibus then for approval.
Yeah, yeah. The vendor list goes on the omnibus. Thank you.
Any questions about that? I think they're pretty straightforward. They're the kind of costs, like, for example, Cargill is on the list, so that's our road salt, right? Where we have certain purchases in place, purchase orders, but as you can imagine, it varies by year, how much we would need, just as an example. The next item is pretty much a housekeeping item of declaration of surplus property. Staff has recommended that we have a 2013 Ford Escape, and they've recommended it be declared surplus. It is unusable due to engine issues and others, and its estimated value is approximately $2,000. And again, the committee concurs with staff and does recommend that that be declared as surplus.
Okay. Put that on the omnibus.
On the omnibus as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of other, we did want to point out that just for the board and just also a reminder for our residents that at our last meeting, our last full board meeting on December 19th, we passed the 2023 budget and the 2022 property tax levy, which will be collected this year. We all know that as we start this new year, then the process for next year's budget and tax levy really begins, right? This is an ongoing process for all of us. Staff is constantly monitoring revenue as well as expenses throughout the whole year, and are always looking to really sort of project just kind of the health of all of our funds through the year. Many of the details in the 2024 budget, we all discuss at our various committee meetings that, of course, are always all open to the public. Those meetings and some of those discussions, we typically begin those in the summer. I think, this year too, we started to even under Village Manager Bear and Director Mastandona, we've even moved those up a little bit earlier in the year, so there is even more opportunity for discussion and review of these budgets. We do want to remind our residents that, many of our important topics get discussed in those committee meetings in detail. Everything that involves any kind of expenditure, we're always looking at that through the committee process and really scrutinizing those. And then they come to the full board for action, as we've seen tonight and we see in many of our meetings. We want to remind residents that they are welcome to attend and participate in public comment periods at any of our public meetings, including those committee meetings, all of our commission meetings, and obviously here to the full board. Also, finally, we would encourage residents to sign up at the village website to receive notifications of the new agendas when they are posted. So just a public service announcement and a reminder that all of this information is available, and we really all welcome the input and participation of our residents. So with that, nothing further.
Thank you, Trustee Rudolph, and appreciate that reminder. We always look forward to engaging with our residents in any forum, whether it's a board meeting, a committee meeting, via email. So,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Moving on to the General Government Committee report, Trustee Terrell.
Thank you, Madam President. The first order of business is a conveyance of a portion of Spring Street right-of-way to the Illinois Tollway Highway Authority. Back in September, you might recall we approved an intergovernmental agreement with the Tollway Authority covering a number of infrastructure projects, including vacation and conveyance of the right-of-way parcel located just west of the cul-de-sac ending Oak Street, what is formerly known as Spring Street. I thought it was very interesting that Spring Street existed apparently under the toll road in Western Springs property, and now it's like an appendix. There's nothing left of it. It's just a vestige. But we do have some property there on what was Spring Street, just west of the cul-de-sac. The village's land in question, it's between the cul-de-sac and the toll road, the tollway wall. We have the IGA in place for the conveyance of this land to the tollway, but we need to approve a quitclaim deed for the property of the tollway. Now, under the vacation statute, we must have a public hearing for the conveyance and the quitclaim deed, with the hearing set for our February 13th workshop meeting. Between then and now, the village will be publishing notice of the February 13th public hearing and the conveyance. If there's no other questions about that, my second item is it's a resolution in which we are, as a village, proclaiming our support of our use of the tax increment financing funding. We're all familiar with TIFs, that is the tax increment financing statute, which we have used to finance multiple improvements in the village, most notably along Burlington and Hillgrove Avenue. I think everyone would agree to great success. The TIF statute, in the TIF statute, a municipality may consider a blighted district whereby the equalized assessed value of the properties within the district are set at a baseline upon creation of the tax increment financing district. The taxing bodies continue to receive their property taxes for the next 23 years set at the baseline EAV. Property taxes received up and over the baseline go into a fund from which the municipality, with us, for example, makes additional investments in the TIF district, notably infrastructure. The idea is that the additional investment improves the value of the properties within the district, creating increased EAVs and greater tax dollars, which are earmarked for the district itself. At the end of the 23 years, the increased EAVs and the corresponding property taxes roll back into the municipality's normal tax distribution. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is that recently the TIF financing mechanism has been under some negative publicity and commentary, even in Springfield. I think was there a bill or something, a bill against it. We stand in support of the TIF as a helpful and necessary financing mechanism and wish to voice our support for the TIF by the following resolution. Am I reading it in? Or is it just for information, or the resolution itself?
Do we have the resolution in the packet? I think that would be sufficient unless,
Yeah, it's in the packet.
Okay.
yeah, I think that's fine. I don't think we
Okay.
have to read the whole resolution. Thank you.
Okay. And we stand behind this resolution, and that's all I would have.
Okay. Thank you very much, Trustee Terrell. Okay. There being no other committees to report this evening, we'll move on to my report. I just have a couple of items. As we discussed before our meeting today, we are moving up the March 27th board meeting. That's the second board meeting in the month of March to March 20th to accommodate spring break schedules. The meetings in February on the 13th and the 27th remain the same. And the WCMC, our Regional Council of Government, has its annual legislative breakfast on February 4th, Saturday, in Elmwood Park again. Trustee Chen, I believe you came with us last time. I'm assured that all of the region's representatives are going to be there in attendance. And the breakfast is from 8:30 to 11. If you're available, it's interesting to attend, and I'd appreciate your company. So if you are interested, please let Ellen or Elaine or myself know, and we'll make sure to get you signed up for the breakfast. And that's all I have. Manager Bear, do you have a report?
I just have one item. I wanted to remind our residents that if they are taking down their holiday lights and they have lights that need to be recycled, we are still recycling holiday lights through the end of this month, and there's more information on our website if you're looking for locations or any other information on the program.
Thank you. Attorney Jerusik?
No further report tonight.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any other business they wish to discuss this evening? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
That would be my motion to adjourn tonight's Board of Trustees.
Thank you.
Board
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ladies and gentlemen, we stand adjourned. Good evening.
All right, I'm giggly
Thank you.
tonight.
I'm just excited to be here.
I know.
Lance, how sorry I am.
Okay.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It was.
Something was just tacky,